Access Fort Wayne offers reflections of our community. Production facilities provided by Access Fort Wayne are a service of the Allen County Public Library. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting organizations. For more information about creating your own television program with Access Fort Wayne, call 421-1250.
Hello, and welcome to our show, The American Veteran. I'm Dale Parrish, your host. Carl Fowler is our co-host. Also joining us this morning is Polly Lipscomb, nurse during World War II. Her show will be showing in another week or so be sure to tune in and not miss that one. Our guest today is Jim Leslie. He's a Korean War veteran, a member of the Korean War Veterans Association, Indiana Chapter 1. Some of you might recognize him. He was on the Fort Wayne Police Department for several years. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you very much.
You joined the service when?
In 1948. I think the situation there was that my buddies were getting drafted right at the end of World War II. And I had to talk somebody into letting me go ahead and join, and I enlisted.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Fort Knox, Kentucky was my basic training, and when I left there, I was assigned to ordnance outfit in Bavaria, in Augsburg, Germany, for the occupation forces, and. I was there until 1950, and I came back to the States at that time, and I was in the inactive reserves, but we got active pretty quick when the Korean War started, and I guess actually I had to go out to Fort Lewis, Washington, and for a refresher course. And that was my first encounter in the infiltration courses, because when I first joined, they weren't putting the fellows through that.
That was peacetime.
Because
right?
it was peacetime.
Sure.
That's correct, yeah. And so that was an experience, but I would imagine that's why our forces had such a problem at the beginning of the war, because a lot of them were not that well qualified for frontline fighting like that, you know.
It's kind of lax.
Exactly, yeah. So I had my refresher course and went over to Yokohama, Japan, and I guess, I zeroed in my rifle there, as everybody else was doing, and then we got on a ship to go to Incheon, and it was what everybody called it. It was a luxury liner. It was all wooden ship.
Japanese.
And it was nice enough, you know, and that. And we landed in Incheon fine. We got on landing craft and went in, and wasn't too long after that why we got on a train after we got landed, and we heard that same ship was going back to Japan and got caught up in a typhoon and was destroyed. So I'm glad I wasn't on at that time, of course, you know. But we got on a train and went south. And there was a siege at Seoul at the time, because we could hear the big guns going, but we went south clear down to Pusan and help build up a camp there. And then we were assigned to a transportation in railroads. And the only time I ever knew anything about a railroad was when we rode the thing, you know. But there was about a dozen of us all together with a full colonel as our commanding officer, and we got on a train and from Tagu, and because that's where we actually got our assignment, and we went up to. We were heading up to a little town called Shawnee, and en route, we had another man joined us from. He was over in Japan, R&R, rest and recuperation, and what he did then was he come on with a briefcase, and it was full of these little glass bottles of booze, different kinds, and he started drinking those because we found out in a hurry when he was on board with us that he was thoroughly disgusted that he had to be there, and we stopped at a little village en route, and he had an automatic carbine, and what he was doing was thinking about doing something. Well, we pulled up in this little village, and everybody just gathers around.
Go ahead and spin that back on.
Yeah, there you go. And he showed his disgust, and all the people gathered around because that was almost inevitable every time a train stopped somewhere where there's a lot of citizens there, a lot of native South Koreans, and he took his carbine out and started shooting at the crowd. We couldn't believe that he was doing this, and
good Lord, yeah.
Yeah, and we grabbed him and took his rifle away from him, and we took him back in and we set him down, but actually as we continued on our way to our first assignment, what happened then was that we were so lax. I guess we didn't realize maybe how bad it was situation, and what he did then was he one by one he disarmed us. In fact, he had the colonel's .45, and we happened to be going through a tunnel through a mountain there, and we thought, I think it's about time that we do something. And so 5 of us jumped him when he was trying to load the .45, and we subdued him and tied him up. And we had to wait until we could come to an MP station where they could turn him over, and eventually they did. And we found out later that in his trial, his court-martial, why he was supposed to be, I guess they use this a lot, momentarily insane. And but we very likely believe that he's just intoxicated too. Anyways, he from that trial, from that court-martial, he was given 3 years in Leavenworth and a dishonorable discharge, of course. Yeah. And we were glad to see him go.
Well, yes.
Because we thought sure when he had disarmed us that he was going to take care of us because we were witnesses. Yeah. So, right. But that was probably the worst situation I got there because we never were at the front line. Of course, we operating the trains. We needed to make sure that they got up to the front where all of our troops needed their supplies.
I'm surprised the commanding officer didn't do something at the time when he shot these people.
Yeah, well, I don't know. He was. I don't know why he didn't at that particular time, but we were all out there with him because we were looking at all the men and women and children out there, and we just thought, what's this guy going crazy here? And so we, after we disarmed him, I guess that was thought to be enough at the time, even though he wasn't tied up or anything, and so we were very fortunate that we got the advantage of him in that dark tunnel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but after that, we had a reasonably good time, that is to do our duties, what we were assigned to do. Yeah.
I'm surprised they took you around to Incheon and sent you to Busan.
Well, we wondered about that too,
went right past Busan.
Going north to get south. Isn't it?
Well, when we were en route, first time we'd been there, and we'd get out outside the cars, and well, we didn't stay out there very long because there were snipers around, and
When you zeroed your rifle in at what is it, Camp Stoneman?
I was
No. He would have been in Japan then.
Yeah, I was in Japan. Stoneman, that's in California.
Okay, what's the name of the
Drake.
I think it was. I think it
Anyway, when
Camp
you
Drake.
zeroed your rifle in, did you keep it then? Or did they take it away from you?
The rifle?
Yeah.
I kept it. It was kind of unhandy sometimes when you're working around the railroad,
Sure. Well, the reason I'm saying that, they took us out there too to zero a rifle in. They said, you make sure it's right. Your life's going to depend on it.
Sure.
And they took us back into camp. They took them away from us.
Didn't make a whole lot of sense, did it?
Then they issued, that was an M1. Then they issued a carbine.
Oh,
when we got to our unit.
No. But we. I tell you, we had a pretty actually compared to everybody that's up on the front. Why we in one sense we had it made. There was a lot of the enemy that were behind the lines, and they would be up in the mountains and just waiting to come down and prey on somebody because, of course, they needed food as well as anybody did.
Yeah.
And we used to keep a light on, and we lived in the railroad coaches on the side track, and we kept a light on so we could see around there in the dark, and we quit that when they started firing at it.
Well, when they broke out of the Busan perimeter, they pushed North Koreans north all the way to the Yalu, but then there's a lot of them that dropped off, hid in the mountains.
Yeah. So we had to be always aware of that.
A lot of them.
And
they could have walked right up on your train, couldn't they?
Well, I suppose so. We were on a side track, and we had
sleeping.
Yeah, you tore out the, and put our cots in there, and we had a interpreter there that was stealing from us, and we had to do something with him, and we decided you're done with us. It says we don't need you anymore, and the local police, Korean police, got a hold of him and just beat him to, just to no end, But we didn't need somebody around like that, and we really weren't in need of an interpreter that much. Yeah.
Okay. Did you haul quite a few supplies up north then?
Yeah. Well, we were.
You running every day or what?
Oh yeah, yeah, and there one time, speaking of that, I says we had no transportation other than we were just sitting there, and so we confiscated a Jeep off of the one of the cars that was coming through there, and we used that from time to time.
You just borrowed it.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Borrow, yeah.
Yeah, borrow.
Because you
Yeah.
couldn't keep it. You had to get
No,
it back.
no, that's right. But it helped in some cases. Why that
Sure.
helped.
Sure.
And at one point in time, I got pretty sick over there, and I was loaned out to another organization, which I cannot think of the name of it right now, but it turned out that I had my appendix were close to bursting, and the only way I could get to a hospital anywhere was there was all kinds of vehicles there, but that commander of that outfit would not let me have that to take me to the hospital. And so I got a hold of my commanding officer from my organization that I was borrowed from, and he sent a train down or a diesel cab and took me on down, and I got down there just in the nick of time because they burst, and yeah.
They took you down where? No.
I don't think I could recall the name of where that hospital was.
Yeah.
I really couldn't.
Regular hospital or a MASH unit?
It was a MASH unit.
MASH unit.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but after that, that was so much better because I couldn't sleep with that pain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that was let's see. Eventually, we got to the point where we were allowed to think about coming back to the United States again, and contrary to popular belief, when we came into San Francisco, it was something that a lot of people thought that we wouldn't have anything like that. But they had a band there, and they were playing some very patriotic music for us, and we were all just gathered around and thinking, boy, isn't this great? I said, we're back. And right where your gangplank comes down, and there's chains and that across there, and three of the men were accidentally pushed over the side, and all three were killed.
Wow.
They made it all through that time over in Korea and then lost their lives.
I'll be darned.
Right there, you know. And we didn't know anything about it until we got off the ship, which takes quite a while to get a lot of troops off of there, and it was in the newspapers.
Oh.
You know, so yeah.
That was because everybody was pushing
Pushing
that side.
right, and it just pushed them right against there and
pushed
down.
them off.
Yeah.
Just like a crowd gone wild, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And we, of course, we were really excited about being back.
Sure.
Yeah. As anybody would be, I guess.
Yeah. That train you was on in Korea, they transported troops back and forth, or
No, it was usually supplies.
just supplies?
Supplies. No troops. No, they were.
Busan to Incheon or Seoul. Where did it go?
Well, beyond. Well, Shawnee was a good. It was probably the closest to Seoul.
Okay.
I couldn't find it on the map today because the names are different than what we knew.
Yeah.
But we just had supplies, you know, and
Munitions?
well, a little bit of everything. We didn't see the consist, you know, what was on everyone. Yeah. Our main purpose there was to make sure that they was no blockage that they could continue right up there. You know, yeah.
Sure.
How long was you in Korea then?
Well, from let's see, I guess just about a year. You know, and Christmas of '50, and then I came back in '51. You know, in the latter part of '51. You know, and that's where the only time I ever got to Camp Stoneman.
Yeah.
Then eventually I was got my discharge at Camp Carson, Colorado.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's pretty much my time over in Korea.
what did you do when you got back?
What did I do when I got back? Well, I went
Besides
back.
relax.
Well, I didn't do much of that. I wanted to get the GE. I worked at GE before any of this happened, you know, and they got me back on the job again, and I went to work with the GE there in Fort Wayne, and it wasn't a whole lot longer there, a few years, and the next thing you know, they were laying off people with maybe even up to 25 years.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when somebody came along and said, well, among other things, I said, in fact, I took a job as a watchman out at Bear Field at one time. And I thought, well, that's better. I got, I think, paid $35 a week, and I thought that's better than getting unemployment compensation, and I'd rather be doing something. But then eventually, I got around to being talked to about becoming a fireman or a police officer, and I said, well, I'm not too good at being up in heights a lot. And I decided, by gosh, maybe I ought to try that, you know, because we wanted to buy a house, my first wife and I, and how could we do that if we didn't, unemployment compensation is nothing, and so that's why I eventually tried on the police department, and naturally there's a lot of politics involved in that too, and I tried my first time. I passed the written test, but the wrong party was in at the time, so I couldn't get on right away. Mm-hmm. So I went back and tried it again, and this time I went. I thought, well, one of the people on the Board of Safety was a big shot at the GE, and I thought, oh, I'll sure get that. That was the first time. It didn't make any difference about him, you know. But I got on the police department, and that was 20 years at that.
20 years.
Yeah, and of course, you can tell all kinds of stories about things that happened when I was on there, and one that comes to mind every once in a while with me is that we had booths down there on Main Street, mm-hmm. and up there on I think Washington, and gosh, it was one night, and you'd spend so much time in there, and then somebody'd replace you, and I was waiting for my replacement at this particular night, and this was up by the courthouse there on Main Street, and they were thinking about doing away with those booths, and what happened was that they had unbolted them from the concrete, and it got kind of windy that night, and it blew over. Oh, I'm glad I wasn't in it, but all of our reports and that were flying down the Main Street, you know, and he came up there about that same time, and I said, I don't know what we're going to do now. He says, all our reports, I don't think we can chase them down. Yeah. But I had time on probably, I think I had about 11 of my 20 years were on third trick. We call it C trick, and part of it was walking a beat, and part of it was riding in a squad car.
Yeah.
And back then too, we used to have ambulance
Yeah.
because we had the station wagons, and we used those as ambulance. And truthfully, I think most of us were glad that when the EMS came around, and we had to kind of break them in on how to get around. But it was pretty interesting work. I mean, and I'm sure we did a lot of good because rather than calling an ambulance and waiting for them to come out from wherever they were stationed, we were out on the street to begin with.
Sure.
And of course they would call one that was in that area where they needed somebody. So it was good. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I did a stint in the detective bureau.
Did you?
And just a little something there. I was in there for a couple of years, and I believe, it's a lot different today than it was then. And what did they do? They when they had a crime committed somewhere, they would tag it and put it in a closet, a large closet in the detective bureau. And you know what they called that? The clues closet.
Clues.
Not the clothes closet, the clues closet.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it was. I enjoyed every bit of my time on the department.
I think there was a few tricks played on you, wasn't there? Something about a bumper sticker said.
Oh yeah.
"Follow me to Mr.
You know,
Donut."
everybody jokes about the about policemen and donuts.
Yeah.
And one night we were in there and behind a donut place, and up comes another squad car with their lights out. It's nighttime, and my partner had gone in to get something to eat. They came up there and put this bumper sticker on the back of our bumper, and we had no occasion to go back and look at our bumper, and it said, "Follow me to Mr. Donut." Oh no! And boy, and all the captains and the chief and everybody else walked by that morning when we got off duty.
You heard about it.
Oh yeah.
You heard about it.
Yes, I certainly did. And then we have a cap that says FWPD. You know what that means? A lot of people. Fort Wayne Powdered Donuts.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's some of the humor out of it, But we had good times.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, appreciate you being on our show. Our time is up.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah. Since all three of us are members of the Korean War Veterans Association, I'd like to invite all the veterans and the service veterans to join us at the KWVA. For more information, just email us there at an American Veteran, and I'll get right back with you. I hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, freedom is not free. Thank you, and good night.
Jim, thank you for your service.
Yes, thank
You
you
bet.
very much.
Yeah. Okay. Glad to be there to do it.
Access Fort Wayne offers reflections of our community. Production